teachers and students feel that math and science would be the best subject for girls and boys to be grouped separately. There are some limitations to this study. It was a short, contrived study. It took place over 3 days and only in 2 subjects, the experience for the students, and then they were surveyed on it. We also have to keep in mind that it was just 5th grade responders. We are a 4th and 5th grade PLC, and it was just 5th graders that were given the single-sex schooling experience and surveyed. This limits the scope for all ages. Since we are a K-8 school, it's hard to apply that to anything past this level of 4th and 5th intermediate. And we have to keep in mind the age of the students. They're 10 and 11-year-olds. They can be skewed by their hormones. They're really at that age where some of them have gone through puberty, some have not, and that can influence their perception of the people around them, which is one of the reasons it can't be applied to all ages, but it's very reflective of how they feel at this grade level. We also have a limited teacher response. There's only 6 of us in this PLC, or 6 of us that took the survey, and we're all female 4th and 5th grade teachers. So that's a very limited audience, a very specific audience, and so it would be hard to apply this to anything that does not match that same demographic. All teachers that were surveyed were female and intermediate level teachers. Then there is the possibility of surveyor bias. Thank you all for your help in constructing those survey questions. Hopefully, by putting all of our heads together, we cut out as much bias as possible. But when you're doing a qualitative study like this, that's always a possibility. Some follow-up actions that we could take now that we have all of this great information. We could consider groupings in small groups by sex for math and science. There's the possibility of recording data related to achievement based on single-sex grouping. We have Terra Nova scores, we have STAR testing scores, we have our own grades for each subject that we teach, and it might be really enlightening if we were to take that data and sort it by sex and look for trends or patterns and see if there is in fact a gap between boys and girls in math and science, or if there's a certain age in which their perceptions of the classroom really change. So we could look at academic data, or we could take this survey and we could survey other students in other grades or in other subjects, particularly math and science, or in the middle school, since we felt like it might be most beneficial there rather than at elementary level, and see how students feel and how teachers feel about single-sex grouping. So if we look at that academic data and look at their perceptions, then we would have a better scope of whether or not there needed to be further steps taken, or if it would be worth taking this to administration or further. It is still difficult to determine whether single-sex schooling would be a beneficial choice for elementary-age students. Success of a school and its students has so many contributing factors that the composition of the gender demographics is only one of those factors. Nevertheless, this project was enlightening, engaging, and thought-provoking. I was amazed at how interested my students were at hearing the results of the study, and how insightful their comments were during the grouping experience, on the surveys, and as I shared the results with them. My research questions were both answered, but only to a certain extent. Teachers feel that same-sex grouping could be beneficial to girls, particularly in math and science and at the middle school level. And yes, students feel more comfortable when grouped with members of their own sex. Despite these results, I feel that one of the most important pieces of information that came from this study was the indication that math and science are perceived by all involved parties to be the subject in which it would be most helpful to group students by sex. If I were to do another action research project, I would probably look into the achievement gaps between the sexes in these subjects, both in research that's been conducted already and in our own school. While I do not feel that there is enough evidence for any drastic changes to the way we group students in classes at this time, I do think the results of this study indicate that there is something to look into further. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and that maybe it gives you a better idea of how things are perceived in your classroom, and perhaps you'd like to implement this intervention in your own classroom, and we can compare the results. So I look forward to continuing to research this topic with you. Thanks again.